Rise and Shine Rwanda, it's Wednesday the 4th of October.
Coming up on today's Rise and Shine Rwanda.
What is the youth's role in achieving Vision 2050? We find out.
The trends and the peaks from this week so far. Good morning, you're watching Rise and Shine Rwanda with me, Irene Kanhengwa.
And me, Fidelis Karangwa. Over the next half an hour, we'll take you through what's trending in news, business, as well as lifestyle. But first, let's take a look into our news features.
The Deputy Vice-Chancellor of the University of Rwanda in charge of institutional advancement, Dr. Charles Murigande, has blamed budget cuts for some of the problems dogging the institution. Appearing before the Parliamentary Public Accounts Committee yesterday, Murigande said reducing the institution's budget had affected timely salary payments and also contributed to a drop in the quality of education the varsity offers. PAC Vice Chairperson Theones Karenzi reminded the UR officials that the issue was not only about salaries but also overtime and official trip fees that go unpaid.
The Rusumo one-stop border is set to start operating 24 hours, allowing local and international cross-border traders to run their businesses uninterrupted all day. Officials made this announcement on Monday, where they pointed out that round-the-clock operations move was agreed between both countries to ease and fasten cross-border trade for traders doing their business across the countries, and that this will not only benefit both Tanzania and Rwanda, but communities along the northern and central corridors. The full-time operation is believed to create a conducive environment for both countries on exports and imports, reduce clearance time at the borders, increase fiscal compliance levels, and reduce the cost of doing business on both sides.
And in regional news, unknown people on Monday night threw explosives at opposition MPs' homes in Uganda. The affected MPs are Robert Kyagulanyi of Kyadondo East and Alan Sewanyana of Makindye West. The same occurred to Rubaga North MP's home Moses Kasibante last week. Kyagulanyi, Sewanyana and Kasibante are among the 24 opposition MPs who were suspended from Parliament following chaos that marred the presentation of the age limit motion in Parliament last week. Government spokesperson Ofono Opondo described the incidents as tactics to frame the government. However, police have collected particles of detonated grenades thrown.
And in international news, President Donald Trump on Tuesday said that the US will be talking about the gun law as time goes by in the wake of the Las Vegas shooting, the nation's deadliest in modern history. The president was asked about the gun bill currently making its way through the House that would loosen restrictions on purchasing gun silencers, and he said that he would talk about it later. And once asked if the massacre, which killed at least 59 and injured hundreds of others, could have been prevented, he did not answer directly, but characterized the shooter as a sick man and demented, and added that they are looking into him very seriously, although the shooting is unlikely to sufficiently shake up well-worn gun politics to produce meaningful changes in the nation's gun law. In fact, the Republicans monopolized power in the White House and in Congress. Chances of reforms appear less promising for Democrats than when President Barack Obama failed to do so after the Sandy Hook school massacre in 2012. Now let's get back to our local news. As we fast approach Vision 2050, that the Rwandans set for themselves, we keep wondering what role can I play as a youth to contribute to this vision? Well, wonder no more. Thanks to Tumve Tumve, a discussion panel organized by the Kigali Global Shapers, we have been given a platform to ask questions to our local leaders and more. Take a look. Shortly after the Ministry of Youth was made a ministry on its own, being separated from the Ministry of ICT, a lot is being done to empower and educate the youth on their role towards achieving our country's vision. With platforms like the Tumve Tumve panel discussions, the youth can get first-hand information from local leaders on what is being done and what they can do to speed up this process.
We're trying to develop different programs that will help young entrepreneurs, helping youth who are looking for jobs to be employed, helping young with talents to develop their talents, and also helping our young generation to tap into global opportunities. That's economically, but we also consider this with this economics. You can't without identity, without your own culture, your own values, as a country, we know that there's no development. So we also focus on some social ethic and values to empower our young people to be financially empowered or economically empowered, but with the values that deserve Rwanda. First is to think big, implement smart, faster, that have that sense of urgency to deliver, behavior, not thinking okay, I'm still have long way to go, I can live for years and years. You forget about saving, and you want country to be rich, means the discipline you have today financially, values more, this will be the one to determine our tomorrow. So we should have focus and work hard, sacrifice to have the Rwanda we want in 2050.
Ephraim Ramwenge, a young entrepreneur and member of the Kigali Global Shapers, is just one of the many people who have benefited from such programs that are meant to guide and encourage the youth, although he says there's still some work to be done when it comes to supporting the youth financially.
The environment in which we do business has been made to be conducive to kind of help me in business and kind of also accelerate, and not just myself, a lot of young entrepreneurs. I know if you talk to a young entrepreneur in Rwanda, they'll tell you they believe they have adequate opportunities. Obviously, they'll complain about stuff like access to finance, and actually mainly access to finance. But I think the no bit is when you actually sit down and ask yourself which elements of the environment actually matter. Because when you think about, for example, access to finance, or when you think about business, to register businesses, it's really quick. That's a plus. When it comes down to, again, mentorship and engagement at that level, especially at the low level, take. But when you come down to the fundamentals of what business is actually being able to buy a product at X and sell it at X plus 20% and make a profit, and then in between there create value. Now, what you see happening is that those fundamentals are not being actually looked at by policymakers. You find that a lot of people are not actually understanding what are the challenges we face around raw materials, what are the challenges we face around value addition locally, what are the challenges we face around capacity building in terms of increasing our capacity as businesses. Because if I can go to the bank and I can't access financing because I don't have an asset, it means that moving from 0 to 1 is going to be next to impossible. But moving from 2 to 10 is going to be a breeze because I have an asset to collateralize and get more financing to grow my business. So then the question always comes down is, because I've always asked this question and I get answers but not enough. Because I know the challenge with the banking sector in Rwanda is actually a regulatory one. And when you think about the reason why, you actually understand from a macroeconomic perspective, it's to actually protect our economy. But I feel like there are certain compromises that can be made because, again, a huge percentage of the population is young. We have to create these 1.5 million jobs. If we do not do things differently or ease up a bit, you'd find that it's going to be hard to achieve that 10% economic growth per annum Because we talk of South Korea, we talk of China, but if you to think about what they have done, especially in that space, we can allow the young entrepreneurs to operate in between semi-formal and formal, that space in between, moving from the informal sector to the formal sector. But the question is, how can we then leverage other forms of data to be able to ease up regulations to allow us to be able to lend to these entrepreneurs the seed capital, the growth capital that they need to take their business to the next level. So for me, as a young entrepreneur, I do have my challenges. But again, that hasn't stopped me. I've had to be innovative. But if you asked me, I would obviously love it to be easy or easier. And nothing comes easy. But I think they've done enough for me to succeed. Could they do more? Yes, always. Everything, I would say that. I mean, I'm on the receiving end. If you told me, if I went to a shop and I was negotiating with somebody, I'd want to leave the shop I'd want to leave with those goods for free. But I do have to pay something, and I think there's that compromise you have to make, especially right now, us young entrepreneurs, or us entrepreneurs in Rwanda and our policymakers, we found that compromise where they are looking out for the interests of the mass market and our economy at large in a more long-term lens. And we have also said, okay, we've gotten a bit of incentives enough for us to do business and grow. So I think it's, all in all, I'm happy. I'm actually very happy.
Despite all these efforts being made, one may ask, what is being done for the youth in rural parts of the country to be included in this movement?
You know, the biggest issue with free markets, or at least democracy and capitalism go hand in hand. So we have a democratic society, so our government is forced to then allow for free market. Now, the way free market works is that there will always be inequalities, people with more advantages than the next man. And I think it's very hard for our government to come in and say, we're going to create equity or equality. Okay, they can try equality, but equity for everybody. So if I was born with two parents and an education, and somebody was born maybe they were born an orphan at a young age and they don't have an education. How do you create that equity so both of us have the same opportunities? It's next to impossible for the government to do that. But I've seen that what they're trying to do is, especially part of Vision 2050, there's an urbanization plan. Because with urbanization, I don't know if you know this, there's a joke that wherever you build a road, you'd find a city. So if I build a road here, everybody's going to come from the outskirts and come to the road, because that infrastructure development or the urbanization of that environment attracts people to that space, and where people are, innovations come up, because that's where the problems are, and people are smart. So what the government is trying to do is they're trying to develop secondary cities, push for urbanization. And what you can see happening is that a lot of places that we considered, quote unquote, to use this language, mucharo, or the village, are actually thriving economic centers. I can tell you, for example, Muhanga is a thriving economic center. I know guys who are doing millions of dollars of business there, and these guys have never left there to do business. These are guys who are in the system. Guy can't even speak a thread of English, and he's not even educated, but is doing business in that environment because of the urbanization. And I think that's what the government is trying to do. As for me as an individual and somebody being part of the shapers who organize this, we're working tirelessly actually to find ways to disseminate this and spread the word throughout. So one, we advocate, when we set up here, we talk on behalf of youth outside of Rwanda, outside of Kigali, outside of the urban areas, who are away from these things, who can't even watch this, who wouldn't even understand what's going on if we said it in English. Then the next best thing is to also partner with people like the ministry, where they have this youth connect, or they go through the sectors and they have these youth representatives that they engage at that level. I think more than anything, government is government, and it has more inefficiencies because performance is measured differently. So obviously the private sector has to get engaged, and the question obviously is, how then do you get the private sector engaged in a profitable manner where they can actually add value to those people in those places and get them into the room and onto the table to discuss these issues. So yes, I think that is what's being done, the urbanization, trying to get better schools, better facilities, better access, so internet connectivity, cheaper devices in those areas, so that even the kids can educate themselves. I mean, I know guys, like I remember there was somebody who came from the village, a relative, and they had Facebook. They had a Facebook account. We had a guy who used to work for us. He went to Changugu. He's sending me a Facebook message. Like, it's Emmanuel from Changugu. I'm like, and mind you, when he was in Kigali, he didn't know a thread of English. But because he's interacting with mediums that have a lot of English, he can put together the sentence, "Hi, it's Emmanuel from." And that is something that the government is doing in their own special way. And from so far, so good, it looks effective. How we could accelerate it? Again, the private sector has to play its role. government and private sector working together to increase this. So yeah.
Karangwa Fidelis, Rise and Shine Rwanda. And joining us now in studio is Israel Bimpe, a member of the Kigali Global Shapers. Welcome, Israel, to the show.
Thank you.
All right, so I know that Tumbe sessions are sessions that keep on recurring over and over again. And this particular time, you chose to focus on the youth contribution towards achieving the Vision 2050. Why did you choose this particular topic as opposed to any other topic that's going on in the continent at the moment?
Well, over the past few months, there have been calls from the President of the Republic, from different authorities for youth to be more engaged in the processes of governance in the government and implementing government policies. And so we thought among ourselves, what does engagement mean as young people? And looking at our platform as the Kigali Shapers, part of the Global Shapers, we said, look, we have a platform and we have this voice. So why don't we bring young people in the same spirit of Twumve, which is, you know, we hear you, you hear us, and we try to create that process, that platform where young people get engaged in what the country is doing, in different policies that are being developed, and sort of try to humanize these conversations, these policies, these strategies being developed, whether it's the national strategy for transformation and prosperity for 7 years, whether it's Vision 2050, whether it's the remaining 3 years for Vision 2020. We just wanted to humanize them and create a sense of ownership so that young people can now own them and be able to engage in the process of developing and implementing these policies. So the one that we had this past week was a first in a series that we want to do on youth engagement, and with the creation of a new ministry or separation of the ministry section in the Ministry of Youth and ICT, and now creating the Ministry of Youth itself, we wanted to get to hear from that new ministry and the new mandate and get them to challenge us to hear what they expect from us as young people, and in the same time get to tell them what we think this ministry should stand for as young people. And it will be a series. We have 6 more to come. They will focus on all areas of development. We have one on realizing one market in Africa. We have one on education in the 21st century. We have one on the future of urbanization and infrastructure. We have one on industry, one on agriculture, and another on healthcare.
Yeah. Now, I know I'm going to bring this up again because it was something that so many people kept on pointing out, especially at the past Twumve panel. And you said all inclusive for the youth. But like most people pointed out, we can't help but notice that as far as all of these events are concerned, there's a particular group of people that get the privilege of attending these events. It's always, like they say, the educated, people with the connections, both the jobs. It's not a fellow Mutura J somewhere who has never even heard of Twumve. What are you doing as a member of Twumve to ensure that this message that you get to hear from all these local leaders who are invited to these sessions actually does not just reach you alone, but also reaches a fellow youth who doesn't have as much privilege to have access to this information as you do?
Well, I understand that. That's correct. We kind of limit to the young people of the city in here in Kigali. It's a challenge, and it's something that we very much recognize as Kigali Global Shapers. But there is also another thing: is those who are part of the city actually are not as engaged. So we think maybe it's good to start here and get to expand in the future. I think for now, this is our platform. This is where we can influence to a large extent. It may be hard to get some of us to organize events in rural areas or outside the city, but we look, let's first get to maximize what we do here in the city on our platform and where we can influence as much. That's our part. And one of on the conversation, we kind of throw the ball at the Ministry of Youth and said, look, get to engage everyone in so many ways. And the ministry actually said that that's one of their goals. They want to be able to engage young people from various backgrounds. And what we can do is only get to help. But for the beginning, we are mostly focused for those here in the cities. We would like to expand to universities. We would like to expand to other parts of the country, but that will come with the capacity to get to do that. But it's something we recognize and we know, but we will have a way to get to address that. And I believe as stakeholders or partners with the Ministry of Youth, it's something that we can work out together with the newly established ministry.
Yeah. So now you said something about the youth's involvement, that even the ones in Kigali are not as involved as they should be. What would you say is your take on why they're not as involved? And also, the way, social media at the moment is trending, and all the youth really are associated in social media. How are you using it to your advantage to ensure that people know about these events and actually attend them? You said you've been together Global Shapers for 4 years yourself. Yeah. What inspired you to join, and what's keeping you there, and what do you hope for in the near future from the Kigali Global Shapers themselves?
So beginning with the fact that young people in the city, in Kigali themselves, are not engaged, it's one of the things that as I was moderating the event, I tried to raise. I said, look, we always call for engagement, we always call for involvement. Are we measuring to which extent we are being involved and measured? Do we have milestones that we should be celebrating? So we don't have those set. So we can't say that we have been involved to a satisfactory level or we have been involved enough. So we don't yet know how to measure that, but at least we know that's a gap. And since authorities have been pointing out several times, the president has been talking about it. Every time he goes on a stage anywhere, he just mentions it again. Yeah. That means that he realizes that there is something lacking, and he is doing his best from his side, and he called us to now get to come and get engaged by ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the Kigali Global Shapers itself has been a platform for me and many others who are part of the Kigali Global Shapers to get to engage with fellow young people who understand things in the same way, where we try to, at least in Kigali, the first initiative, which is Twumve, we said, look, as young people from diverse background, from diverse way of looking and understanding things, let's set up a broader platform for other young people who are from equally diverse background as us to come and discuss with policymakers, with leaders in their sectors and everything to discuss.
Be heard, basically.
Yeah, definitely. And recently we took on a second project, which is Open Africa, Visa-Free Africa, where we want borders to go down.
Yes.
And that basically came last year when we were hosting the World Economic Forum, and following the World Economic Forum, we had the African Union Summit, and we said, look, in those periods, what can we do as young people? We realized that through the World Economic Forum and before that, many young people wanted to come, and they were always asking us, how is the visa? We said, it's easy to come to Rwanda.
Yes.
But it could be hard for others. Imagine someone coming from Guinea, for example, who want to come to Rwanda, they have to go through France.
Yes.
Or Belgium. So we said, what we want is get to open the borders so that these young people get to access different countries, get to share opportunities, get to collaborate in so many ways. So in the Kigali Shapers, that's our part. The first is through a platform for conversation, Twumve, and the second is Visa-Free Africa, where we advocate for opening borders for people to get to collaborate across countries within Africa.
So one would say that one thing that you aspire to see in the Kigali Global Shapers is you guys achieving that One Visa Africa initiative.
Yeah, definitely. Where I can go to any country without the needing to have a passport, or even if I have a passport, I don't need to go through the hassle of getting a visa. You would want to know this, but to go to some countries in West Africa, you need to go to apply for a visa to the Embassy of France here in Kigali.
Yes.
That for me is ridiculous, and it's something we shouldn't be tolerating as our generation.
Now, bringing it back to the topic of discussion at the previous Twumve, there's again a lot of people keep commenting that, so we always have these events that are meant for the youth. What can the youth do? What part is the youth playing? But when you actually look in the crowd, there's like 20% of the crowd is the youth. The people who are attending these events, the World Economic Forum, the African Union, all of these are a much older generation, but they're there discussing the future of the youth. And the question is, how can they discuss the future of the youth, what the youth should be doing, yet they're not the youth themselves, they don't know what we are going through, what we're experiencing firsthand. What is your take on that? What do you think should be done?
Well, those people are subject matters expertise. Yes. They have the expertise for the discussion on technology, on finances, you name it, everything that could be discussed on those kind of platforms. But at least within the Kigali Shapers, we believe that even if we make a call for young people to be engaged, those young people who want to be engaged have to bring some form of value to the table.
Sure.
As you come, you have to have value to come. And that's why we set up these platforms for young people in Kigali to get to converse, so that each of us get to know what is my role, how can I bring value to the table in different ways.
How can I use my talents to bring out more value?
Basically what we do is just make sure we call, and we are grateful for, the kinds of the World Economic Forum, the government of Rwanda, that make sure that at least there is youth representation, and the rest now becomes for us as young people who get to represent fellow young people there to add value to those conversations.
Sure.
It's very common that you see that the young person who is in the room doesn't really add value, doesn't understand
fully what's going on.
Exactly what's being played and what's going on. So it's hard sometimes. It's really hard to get to add on value to the level of expertise that those people for 30, 40 years of experience have. But it's something that requires energy and that people have to do and get to work on and engage. I think that the bad thing is young people engaging with a certain sense of naivete. It's good to be aware and add value to the conversations that you are engaging on. However, I don't see having 60% of representation of young people, how that would benefit young people. But sometimes it requires that level of expertise, but also requires
maturity as well.
Exactly, but also requires a certain engagement of young people to a certain extent. That has to happen. There are places where youth are categorically not represented, and there are places where they do their best to have young people represented, and we always call for more. We will never stop calling for more. We will never be satisfied. Whether it becomes 100% young people, I just think we will never get satisfied to say get us more engaged.
Yes, well, in the cases where we're actually being represented, it's people like you, people who go to Tumve and hear and educate themselves, and like you said, add value to themselves from these different discussions. So, as one of our viewers, lastly, as we wrap up, if someone's watching our show and wondering, so how would I be part of this movement of Kigali Global Shapers who are trying to change the future of Rwanda, the future of the world? How can I join? What do I need to do? When is the next Tumve? Give us all the details so that they have no more excuses.
Oh yeah, definitely. So the Tumves usually happen every other month. So we had one right in the last week of September. We are hoping to have one either by this month in October, since it's a series, or early November. As for joining the Kigali Global Shapers, it's through the Global Shapers community, and the website is globalshapers.org. It's quite simple. We just need you to be young, energetic, and knowing what you want to bring to the table for fellow young, equally energetic young people, and who want to do something, who are actually working to change the world. We never say that who want to change the world, who are working towards that.
You're already in it.
Yes, who are already in it, and you have something and a value to bring to what we do as a core group of Kigali Shapers. But I also believe in the fact that you don't need to be part of Kigali Shapers to be engaged.
Yes.
Wherever you are, there is definitely a way you can be engaged. There is different multiple platforms. It's just to not ignore them and to not be complacent. It's important that someone becomes outgoing to get to engage and get to discuss and get to learn and know what's happening, read about the policies, read about the strategies, and get to know what's in it for me, or what kind of contribution can I make to improve this policy or to implement these policies, since they're usually perfect.
All right. Well, thank you, Israel, for that.
Thank you
really
so much.
Appreciate you, and look forward to having you again soon on the show.
I look forward to that too. Thank you so much.
Perfect. You're watching Rise and Shine Rwanda. Stay with us. We'll be right back after the break.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Rise and Shine Rwanda. Now let's get straight into our lifestyle section. Irene, this week being the Customer Service Week 2017, everybody's talking about it. It's on Twitter, it's on Facebook, it's on all the social media platforms. We have seen all the banks, all the companies taking a major step towards celebrating this week and doing their best to take care of us. We're being given sweets, there's balloons everywhere. So really, people understand the meaning of this week and its importance towards better service delivery. But the question in everyone's mind is, are we just going to have this going on for just this week, and then after this week it will all be forgotten? What do you think should be done?
Actually, I think this should go on. I mean, it's something that is brought up to give people lessons on how to improve their service delivery, and it's a very good idea. I think people should borrow ideas from each other and put it into their daily schedules, and everything. How they've handled people throughout this week should continue.
So now some of the good things that people have been talking about is, like I said, this week in most of the banks that you go to, they're quick to come to you. For example, I'm giving you an example of the bank because that's the experience I've had. They're quick to come up to you to help you with whichever issue you're facing. But then, like I said, everyone's worry is after this week, do we go back to the long lines, to having to wait on a manager for 2 to 3 hours before they can address your issue? And the other thing is, people feel like this week, like I said, it's just a 1 week thing, and it's not supposed to be like that, because with complaints like so many that RDB has put together, to encourage people to have better service delivery, people still don't understand that it should be like inbred, like it should be in their daily lifestyle. Would you say that in what you do, you ensure that you're always giving the perfect service to everybody who comes to see you?
Exactly. And as we say, this should go on. This 1 week is supposed to remind people.
It's supposed to be a reminder.
Yes, exactly. It's supposed to remind people on what they're supposed to do. And not just celebrating it just for a week. It should go on. It should go on.
I personally remember campaigns like the Akazikanoze that was being implemented by RDB, and I remember they even used to send people to restaurants, to banks, to all these places to train employees on how to give better service to their clients. We don't hear much of them anymore. So the question is, have they died out? What more can we do to bring them back? If you were to be given a chance to say maybe some of the issues that you've been facing, what would they be, and how would you say they should be resolved better?
I think people should get down to read their profession ethics, and get to the roots of their careers and really give what they're supposed to give. Because when we look at in the Ministry of Health, they suspended 2 nurses.
2 nurses, yes.
Because of poor service delivery. People should not wait for that to come up. You should not wait for someone to remind you on what you're supposed to do. Get down to your ethics and know what to do, and keep that into your everyday life.
But I think now we've looked at it so much so on the employee side. Now we should look at it from another angle, which is the employer side. And what are the employers doing to ensure that the employees are comfortable enough for them to, give the service as required? There's so many cases where employees will be left alone to deal with clients. If an issue happens and they take it to the employer, they'll tell you, deal with it. And that is something that could really hinder how an employee, does their job. So I would personally say, for me, if my take on this would be, employers as well should play their part in ensuring that the employees are giving the best in their services, encourage them, most importantly, lead by example. So if you're saying, you guys always come late and that's why we always have so many clients waiting in line. Maybe start with walking in at 8 yourself and not at 10.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So lead by example and, be involved. Just because you are an employer doesn't mean you need to take a sit back and let everyone else deal with their problems.
Yeah.
It's always such a motivation when your employees see you being a part of what they're doing, because they feel like, I have to look good for my employee. If he's here doing the same stuff I'm doing, I need to step up my game and do better.
Yeah.
So I think also there's that part, which is very important. We've seen on Twitter, so many people are talking about it. So many people have been appreciated for what they're doing. KCB has been doing a good job giving major shout outs to their employees on service delivery. Not just the employees as well, also their customers and most of the people who give them feedback on how best to do their job. We saw David Tuvi, one of the friends of the show, being given a shout out on Twitter. So we appreciate companies like that take time to appreciate the feedback that they get. And like we said, I think the take on this is, let's not just make this about the week. Let's make this an everlasting thing. After this week, let's do more to ensure that there's better service delivery in Rwanda and in the world in general.
Exactly.
So now, the other topic that's why I wanted us to discuss was the Kigali Jazz Junction, which happened just last weekend. A spectacular show. I was there myself. I think they did a lot better on timing. Last week I was really complaining about concerts and timing.
You're so pissed
but this week I feel like this time they did a lot better on timing. The question on people's minds is, so it's called Kigali Jazz Junction, and there's a bit less jazz going on now. Than it did before. So the question is it dying out and becoming just another concert that people go to, or can we still call it the Jazz Junction, where people can come and appreciate and listen to good jazz music?
When it's a mix, I think they are trying to satisfy every side, because some people will really come in not expecting only the jazz. Yes, it has a title as the jazz.
It's the Jazz Junction.
Exactly, but
so
I mean, they are
else?
trying to spice it, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah. By including other kind of music is a spice. To me, that's what I think. Yeah.
No, I'm in agreement with that, and honestly, they've been doing a good job. Sey killed it again, but still, I have to complain. My people, I was there. She kept telling people, stand up. Everyone just keeps looking at her. We are really ruining these concepts for ourselves and embarrassing ourselves, because stuff like this comes to the country, and of course they're getting paid, and as long as they get paid, I don't think they really care. But
still, people are ready for her.
We need to do our part. We need to do our part. Listen, we go to concerts to enjoy ourselves. I don't understand why we end up there. People are just seated and looking at. We need energy. Otherwise, what's the point of organizing these events? But anyway. Big ups to all the organizers of the Kigali Jazz Junction. It was a great event, and we look forward to next month with Ali Kiba coming into town. Very, very famous East African artist. So probably we expect to do a bit more when it comes to being excited. Well, we're watching Rise and Shine Run. I'll be right back after the break. Now, don't forget to love to hear your thoughts, comments, and feedback on what we're talking about here on Rise and Shine Rwanda. Tweet us at Rise and Shine RW. Like us on Facebook and send us your ideas for programs. Check out our Rise and Shine Rwanda YouTube page where you can catch all the shows and reports that we do. Find us on Instagram, Rise and Shine RW. We love to see your pics. Or check out our Rise and Shine Rwanda website.
Well, that's all that we have time for today. We do love to hear your feedback, and do let us know if you have any idea for the program. You've been watching Rise and Shine Rwanda with me, Irene Kanengwa.
And me, Fidelis Karan. We'll be back here same time, same place next week, so do join us then. But for now, from the both of us and the rest of the Rise and Shine Rwanda team, have a very good day. Goodbye.